Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Cy Cody White and I'm a member of PNY's professional marketing team. On behalf of PNY, View and Puget Systems, we want to thank you all for attending today's virtual event, which is on how View is revolutionizing virtual production.
Everything starts with an idea. When you have extreme computational power behind your set that's well optimized for virtual production, it does take that stress and that worry away.
Virtual production is a way of doing visual effects in camera, specifically ICVFX, which is in-camera visual effects.
A virtual studio is very similar to a traditional studio in the sense that the process of doing production is almost the same. The only thing that's really changed is that we've now digitized the background. We're now doing all of the CG backgrounds in real time.
The idea behind that is it limits the time needed in post to do green screen replacements and fixing little details.
You know, to run a screen that's hundreds of millions of pixels, you need a dense array of computer systems to be able to support that detail of graphics. What we've found is that Puget Systems has been a really good resource in making sure that our computer systems are spec'd to the size of our screens and that they support all the things that we need in a virtual production setting, but that they're always there for support.
The core of virtual production is the workstation. It's the one that's binding all the networking, camera tracking, the LED, processing display, and the Unreal Engine, the 3D rendering of it. I've built computers before. It gets really hard when you're building it by yourself and you're building a lot of this. Working with Puget System, they really work with you from the beginning until the end of the project. Puget System really helps us understand the specification of the system, especially the benchmark. We know exactly how to push the system and we know exactly where we could push it.
What happens is when a computer goes down or when there's any other technical issue, which is bound to happen on set, it can cause some downtime, and it means that maybe we have to compromise on shots. And since we're using such stable systems now from Puget that are really well optimized for virtual production, it's something that we don't have to worry about as much.
You're managing sometimes hundreds of millions of pixels. It takes several graphics cards and several computer systems in a computer cluster to really generate that type of image. We've been very fortunate that Puget Systems has helped us throughout several of our studios in our virtual studio network to be able to manage that type of virtual studio environment.
We're only able to do that because of partners like Puget who have worked with us to optimize systems that operate perfectly in a virtual production environment.
All right, so our presenters today are Alvin Renz from View and Kelly Shipman from Puget Systems. All right, Alvin, the first question's for you. Can you tell us about View? How did View start off?
So yeah, View's story, it's funny because we started as a production company. Me, Tim, and the CEO, and the president right now, we came originally from the production company, and that is the Diamond View. What we do really good at, and we find ourselves interested in, is creating a compelling picture, trying to see and find a way to create certain look that we love, and then just kind of try to reiterate from that. So we've done that for like the last 7 years, and then started doing back projection for some of the sports team that we've done in the past, and that's when the digital assets of media got introduced in our workflow. So we like cinematic, that's where we came from, and then also try to find a new way to create compelling pictures.
And Alvin, how did PNY and Puget's collaboration accelerate View's virtual production?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the story on how View got started in terms of like dabbling into the digital assets or digital capture is when we move or try to find a new solution for moving away from the back projection, like what we used to do with the sports team. And it was during the pandemic when we got, one of our, my CEO told me, it's like, hey, we're gonna work from home, and we're gonna try to try to keep you guys, but and find a way for us to get through this. And as a DP, as a background, I'm a DP, and try to find ways in using my skills working from home is a bit of a tough challenge. So I stumbled upon, and at that time, that's when they start the show Mandalorian, and that really got my interest because that one, as I wanted to start messing with the 3D aspect of it, whether it's a 3D, modeling or 3D printing or anything with a 3D modeling. That's the idea when it started, and we entertained the idea of like having Unreal Engine input, like using Unreal Engine in our workflow. When we did that, we realized quickly that first it's going to be a heavily computing based workflow. So at the beginning, I start putting my computer together. I like putting together as a gearhead, as a DP. I like to create my own computers and trying to find the best configuration for it. Of course, the number one for us on that choice is NVIDIA graphics card. I remember the first build that I did. I think it's not even RTX. It was my personal computer that I brought from my home to the studio after the pandemic and started dabbling with the 3D. And that's when I realized how important specification like of the computer hardware and in the 3D aspects, especially in real time alone, because that is the main horsepower of all of this real-time computing or video in-camera VFX workflow. And how we got introduced with Puget is we have to find something that, as we grow, we have to find something that we could, like a company that could help us grow in the same amount of phase that we're doing, that we could trust and also find the best configuration for us along the way. The exciting part about when we started is the industry for ICVFX might be, might have been done before, but in terms of like the LED, shooting with the LED and using the Unreal Engine, it's very new in terms of the industry. So we're kind of like carving a path, like, and trying to figure out different configuration on this, and that's what the exciting part about this. And we reach out to Puget, and they have the same excitement from us to try to to be our partner and try to find this solution for us, and then be that reliable source of not only source of the equipment, but also source of information and leaders in building the configuration.
And how does Vue's virtual production environment enhance digital storytelling?
We see the ICVFX workflow as a different or another set of tools for filmmakers or creative. There is, especially during the pandemic, a lot of filmmakers or creative are forced to think or find a solution in a different way, and we're one of those. And those limitations are the reason why we even exist right now. And I think the ICVFX workflow allow those creative to gain another tool for them to express their creativity. There's some ideas that I've seen before that it won't be possible if we try to shoot it traditionally or a traditional workflow. It only allows them to achieve that production or achieve that idea because of this technology. One example is, let's say, if you wanted to try to have a sunset for the entire day, shooting that on a budget, trying to find days that would work, that moving the company to that company move or the crew, it's just not feasible. So those are the logistic that the constraint that having an idea that big could be so expensive to do in logistics. So those ideas get shut down easily in the creative process. That's when the ICVFX gets very interesting and exciting, because it now allows like creatives or writers or directors to imagine all of this restrictions that they had before, that that they have idea, and revisit them and even add to that. So there is that unlocking that creative aspect of it, and allowing them to see a light in terms of the storytelling. The second that I'd like to share as well is the happy accident on production. There is amount of immersiveness when you walk into the volume. Sometimes I forgot that that we have a volume, and then I'll bring someone in and they're like, looking at it and they're like, yeah, it'll take me a second to, to react to this. But it's nice to see like talents and creative come up with new ideas on the spot. Like being able to move the world, being able to see what would happen if, if we move the camera here. Those kind of happy accident are amazing, because it not only like fuel the creative juice on set, but also expand the possibilities on set. So you not only that you could plan for the things that you might not think it's possible before that you could do now, but also when you get to the production, you immerse yourself in it, and then it gives you more ideas to use it. So I think the technology with digital environment allows us to play more and be more creative, and that's the most exciting part in the ICVFX as well.
And what are some of the benefits your clients have experienced working in a virtual studio environment like this?
One of the benefit of virtual production that I saw on a production is when we shot the spots for Neiman Marcus. They wanted to have a snow scene in Florida. Not only that we're in Florida, but they wanted to do artificially. You could do that traditionally in the studio with the soundstage, but there's a benefit of it being virtual. The ability to snow practically, and also to add snow digitally in real time makes it so much more immersive in the entire crew that's working on it. That's one of the production I could think of, and just being there on set that day, I was like, yeah, this is amazing, and seeing it like this is pretty cool. Second is changing environments on the fly, or being able to have multiple environments in one location. I've shot for the last 7 years as a DP for Diamond View, and one of those steps that we have to do on every production is to pack your gear, make sure that you have everything, coordinate with the grip trucks, and travel to the location that you're going to go, and then unload, set up your shot, set up the crew and the client in one area, and then get the shot. That alone takes at least 4 to 5 hours to prep. With virtual production in studio, ICVFX, not only that you're inside the studio with AC, especially here in Florida, is very important. You could also manipulate the environment and then swap out practical locations easily and block it out. So that's one of the benefit that really shines the ICVFX. And also the post side, there's a little bit of a advantage into that. If you plan carefully on how you want it to do, it might save you so much time in post.
And Kelly, after hearing about all the exciting things Vue is up to, how excited was Puget about teaming up with Vue?
We were pretty excited at Puget to team up with Vue. We've been watching the growth of virtual production for quite a while. We've worked with a lot of game developers for a very long time, so we're very familiar with Unreal Engine. And then we also have a long history of VFX, rendering, video editing, all that kind of stuff. So virtual production was like a natural fit for us. And one of our primary goals is to make sure that we understand the real world application of these different pipelines and how people are using it. And when it came to virtual production, especially on an LED wall, it's a little tricky for us to have some firsthand knowledge of how our hardware interacts with those walls. So teaming up with someone like Vue is really helpful for us to be able to take our knowledge of hardware and how it extends beyond the computer, and then their knowledge of all the other aspects, the LED walls, the motion tracking, all that kind of stuff. So they're able to like send us information on the potential pain points and help us develop some tests that we can use to figure out what the best hardware is for that exact workflow. And so a partnership like this just helps us create this back and forth exchange of data to help refine the system specifically to what they want.
And Kelly, can you tell us more about Puget Systems and what they offer?
Yeah, we've built several different systems for Vue. We've done some artist workstations where the assets and scenes are created. and then the render nodes that drive the LED walls. And really, the render nodes are the heart of the virtual production process. The systems we built for them are 4U rack mount systems with, I think we typically do 32 core Threadripper Pros with like 128 gigs of RAM, and then an RTX A6000 with a Quadro Sync. The Threadripper Pro is a nice base platform because it allows us to have some options for core counts, high core counts, lots of PCIe lanes, and built-in 10G networking, so they can kind of customize the system to fit their exact use. Some virtual production people like to have multiple video cards or capture cards or whatever, and this is just a nice platform to be able to do that kind of thing with. But really, it's the GPU that does all the heavy lifting. Large VRAM helps with these large, very detailed environments. Be able to render at high resolutions requires high VRAM because all the shaders are working on a per pixel basis. And then Quadro Sync allows for several of these nodes to be synced together with the LED wall to ensure that frame rates update at the same time. And these are all rack mounts, so they're using several linked together to make a kind of one system, but it's multiple nodes connected together.
When we're trying to discover this specification with Puget, when it comes to the GPU, because this is actually the main heart of the computing power when it comes to the 3D rendering for ICVFX, when we compare or look for other solution out there when it comes to the GPU, there's nothing really fit the specification of what we're going to be needing and how much of computing power that we're going to be needing that's equivalent to A6000. There is a lower A5000, but in terms of like other brands, the A6000 is the one that allows us to sync them together, as Kelly was mentioning. Those are very important for us because right now the computing doesn't allow us to render the entire screen in one machine. So a synchronization of that machines are very important of the cluster nodes. So only the A6000 that we find stable and also reliable and readily available for us to use is the only option that we have, and there's no other way for us to use other brands and or our GPU.
So what makes us different from other workstation builders is that we have a labs team. That's part of what I do, and we aim to understand real world workflows. So I'm invested in Unreal all the time or 3D modeling programs, trying to learn what how people are actually using those today and in these very niche circumstances. I come from a game development background, so I understand the engine, but how that is then applied to an LED wall or to motion capture or to green screen is very different from just the game engine itself. So then we work to develop benchmarks around those different workflows to make sure that we see exactly how this hardware behaves in these different workflows. We want to make sure that anyone that buys a computer from us gets the best thing for what they are doing. We will do some custom testing as needed. We can also, even if you don't buy a computer, you can come to us to do custom testing for your needs. And then we work with our customers to find the right components instead of just pushing a product from our shelf. There's a lot of system integrators who will try to push a specific CPU or a specific platform or whatever because it's kind of the better return for them, not necessarily what is the best for that specific workflow. So that's what we really strive to do, is find the best hardware for exactly what you're doing. And then from there, we create platforms based on these common workflows as a starting point. So like you can come to us and ask for a Vue render node, and we will build a system that's exactly the same as what we build for Vue. But you can also then say, well, I want to add this thing, or I want to change this spec, and we can do that. But it lets us know that this is how Vue does it. And if we know that someone such as Vue sees this platform is the best thing, that gives us a great starting point to build something specific to someone else that maybe just has a slight difference in their workflow.
Awesome, great. Well, we covered a lot of topics here. Where do you see the future of virtual production going?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and it's very exciting because virtual production is is, I would say, the hot cake right now in production. A lot of workflow in every studio and it's different. So everyone is kind of trying to create their own workflow. Our goal is to find, the same-minded people to help us push this technology. Puget System is one of those. They're helping us not only making sure that we have the right equipment or we have the right support when it comes to the equipment, but also the right specs that we have. We have the RTX A6000 for all of our cluster nodes. Knowing that that is our standard and creating that in every studio, it's exciting to think that we're creating a standard for this industry moving forward, and thinking that what we do now might be possibly the standard of filmmaking or virtual production filmmaking, and having that amount of of the ability to create that is something excites me the most. So I'm excited to see what other technologies or what the technology could bring us, and what are the things that we could find out more, and also who are those mind-like companies that could help us bring us to that next level, because I think it's very exciting that we could create that standard in the future.
I think for me, the future of this field is just so wide open. We're just scratching the surface. This has only been really going for, in the in-camera VFX specifically, for a couple of years, and a lot of the workflows and a lot of the specific hardwares being used were not designed specifically for that workflow, but we're starting to see these manufacturers looking at virtual production and saying, this is something we need to focus on. So we're starting to see more some better LED walls, better motion capturing systems, better just whatever coming to the market because of the work of people like View are doing, and showing how much benefit that provides to the entire production pipeline for video editing, not just the moment of filming, but how well it improves the creating the assets and the whole process from storyboard to finish. And we're just scratching the surface. So there's going to be so much more growth here. There's going to be a lot of jobs coming in because of these different workflows. For me, it's exciting to see something so groundbreaking and be at the ground floor, and just really the sky's the limit. And I'm so excited to see what comes up. I've already seen people do LED walls with like ocean scenes where they have actual water on stage, which would scare me to put that much water on a stage with these LED panels, but people are doing it. It's opening up new doors that filmmakers probably have never considered before.
All right, well, great. Thank you again, Kelly, and thank you, Alvin. That was a great presentation. All right, now we're going to be kicking off Q&A with Derek Ellis. Derek?
Thanks, Cy. The first question I have is for Alvin. What improvements did you see in your workflow when you upgraded to systems powered by NVIDIA RTX A6000 GPUs?
Really, the improvements that we get from going to the RTX A6000 is the technology itself. When the RTX lineup got introduced, it opens a lot of possibilities in real-time rendering, ray tracing, and also baking lights, and trying to get that realistic look that we always try to achieve in ICVFX. Knowing the specification of it, and also knowing the other companies that's working with this technology, gives us a lot of ability to improve our workflow as well. So yeah, the memory, the technology, and definitely the roadmap of where they're heading, along with like Epic or other companies that going with that platform, give us a lot of competitive advantage by using A6000.
Great. The next question I have is for Kelly. What GPU would you recommend to someone who wants to get started with virtual production?
So when you're just getting started with virtual production, you can kind of use most anything. I would still recommend anything from the NVIDIA line because of ray tracing capabilities and all that kind of stuff. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do, with how much horsepower you need, how much VRAM you need. Just trying to get a taste for virtual production, especially in camera VFX. You can use a GeForce card. We're going to be limited by VRAM if you're trying to get a very complex scene. But you can still like make a little window on a second monitor and have like a simple motion tracker from a VR headset to test moving a camera around. Once you get into trying to do an LED wall or something like that, the professional A series is the only way to go, because you want that sync technology. You need that high VRAM to be able to do these larger scenes, larger resolutions and all that kind of stuff. But you can, just to get a taste of virtual production, you can get away with a GeForce line if you need to.
All right, the next question I see here is for Alvin. What are the reactions you get when clients walk into one of your studios for the first time?
It's a lot of when the client walks in for the first time in one of our studio, you would see a lot of excitement or shock, or just pause for a minute, and they're just like soaking in. Especially we have like a specialized presentation of like how that first interaction with the volume is. We have a tour video that we always play that showcase the information of the technology and what is the benefit of it. So their first initial reaction after that is, what can we do with this, and can you show me the technologies that wraps around it? Some of them are quite overwhelmed with a lot of with the amount of technology with it. So part of it is education, but aside from that, I think the excitement of using it is overcoming that that worries. So it's a lot of excitement. And one of the often question that we ask is like, have you played the game on it? Have you tried anything on it? And of course we played. The first thing I did is like flight simulator on it, and we watched Super Bowl party on it. So well, if you use it for anything, it's a big screen for us. So.
All right, it looks like we have time for a couple more questions, and the next one's for Kelly. What are some of the benefits of purchasing a system for virtual production through Puget Systems versus building it on your own?
Well, as this industry is growing, the amount of pressure being put on these systems and the need for them to perform on the day of filming is just growing exponentially. The last thing you want is a system that's going to fail. And if it does fail, because it's a computer, a lot of times they will, you want to make sure that you have someone in your corner that can get you a replacement, get you a fix as fast as possible. You don't want to be down for a week or trying to contact, going back and forth between customer support with your video card manufacturer and your motherboard manufacturer, trying to figure out where the problem lies. Buying from a system integrator like us, you're going to have one point of contact who's going to be able to diagnose the system, the entire system, and then get your replacement if you needed as quickly as possible. So that way you're not wasting money with a system that's down, have to build something else from scratch if you need to, just to get yourself back up to where you were before.
All right, it looks like we have time for one more question, and this one's for you, Alvin. What advice would you give someone who wants to learn more about virtual production and explore this industry?
The one thing that I would advise is definitely look into the ICVFX workflow, or just virtual production in general. There is a few different categories of it, but specifically for us, I think knowing when to use it, what's the limitation, and how to use it. The advice that I would give is try to find like a studio like us. Our goal is trying to lower this the barrier of entry. That's the biggest part of this ICVFX. It's hard to get into it, but I think the more you can find out how to use it, and also the more you could learn about what's the limitation and when to use it, will help you with your learning progress on it. And then we're also trying our best to lower the barrier of entry when it comes to virtual production. So by going to the workshop that we do, the podcast, or like podcasts like this, I think those are great outlets for knowing how to explore this industry.
Great. Well, thanks again, Alvin and Kelly, for your time today. And thank you, everyone who joined in. We hope you enjoyed it.